Well, good morning, Council. Good morning, community, Chief Executive Officer, General Managers, Executive Staff, and those in the gallery to this ordinary meeting of Council, which is presented via, say, gallery by Zoom to the wider community. There is obviously everyone is in attendance, so there is no apologies for today's meeting. As a council and as a community, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet today, both elders past, present and emerging. And we also acknowledge those Australians and their families that have given the ultimate sacrifice in service to our country as well. The first matter of business today is the confirmation of the minutes. So I now move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 28th of July 2020 be taken as read and confirmed. Can I have a seconder, please? Second is Councillor Haberman. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item of business is where I now invite councillors to declare any conflict of interest or material personal interest in any items to be discussed at today's meeting. I'll go to Deputy Mayor Bill Trevor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be declaring conflict of interest in K1.
In K1. Thank you, Councillor Trevor. What type will you be staying or?
Oh, sorry, you want me to do the full declaration now? Or?
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, councillors, pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I believe I have a conflict of interest. The nature of the conflict is that in the planning report, Cane Railways are mentioned also as part of the focus group. When that was discussed, ISA Central Mill were part of that focus group. I and my wife are a shareholder in the company, and therefore I will be declaring this conflict of interest and leaving the room at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. I'll now go around the room, starting with Councillor Martel.
No conflict.
Yeah, Councillor Wayne Honour.
Yes. Yes, Mr Mayor. Pursuant to section 17E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest in the item G1, which involves the shutdown of council for the Christmas break. The nature of the conflict is that I have members of my family that work for council, and having stated this perceived conflict of interest, I believe that I can stay in the meeting room and discuss and vote on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Honour. Now that Councillor Honour has identified the type of conflict and the reason for staying in the room, councillors now have to, pursuant to section 175E of the Act, council has been informed of a real or perceived conflict of interest, and Councillor Honour has not voluntarily left the meeting. The other councillors must now decide whether Councillor Honour has a real or perceived conflict of interest in the matter. Can I have a show of hands of those councillors who determine that there is a conflict of interest? No. Now the councillors must decide that whether Councillor Honour must leave the meeting and stay away while the matter is voted on, or whether Councillor Honour may participate in the meeting involving voting on the matter. Can I please have a show of hands for those councillors who determine that Councillor Honour must leave the meeting? No. Those that determine Councillor Honour should stay. So,
I have the same conflict.
oh, okay, yeah, very good. So thank you, Councillor Mitchell. So council has determined that Councillor Honour can stay in the meeting, and I'll just check in relation to voting on the matter. You can stay in the meeting, but you won't be able to vote on the matter then. I'll just check it in.
Once you can stay in the meeting, then you can vote.
Yeah, he's staying in because the councillors have said that, he's conflict. So council has determined that Councillor Honour can stay and will be able to participate in the vote. Thank you, Councillor Honour. The council must comply with the decision of the Councillor stays in the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Honour.
Thank you.
So that was for which one? The
G1.
G1, the Christmas holiday. Will do. Anything else, Councillor Honour?
No,
That's right. Councillor McPhee.
I have three.
Okay. Yep.
Pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest in item S1. The nature of the conflict of interest is the applicant's letter states that this event will bring significant economic benefit to the region by way of patrons spending money at food and accommodation businesses. As I own hospitality businesses in Bundaberg, they may receive increased patronage from this event. Having stated this conflict of interest, I believe I can participate in the decision on the matter and intend remaining in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of my fellow councillors.
Thank you, Councillor McPhee. So pursuant to section 175E of the Act, the Council has been informed of a real or perceived conflict of interest, and Councillor McPhee has not voluntarily left the meeting. The other councillors must now decide whether Councillor McPhee has a real or perceived conflict of interest in the matter. Can I have a show of hands of those councillors determine that there is a conflict of interest? No. Now the councillors must decide whether Councillor McPhee must leave the meeting and stay away while the matter is voted on, or whether Councillor McPhee may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter. That's very clear. Can I please have a show of hands for those councillors that determine Councillor McPhee must leave the meeting? No. Now the council, obviously those council that Councillors McPhee must stay, should stay. Yeah, and what I'll do is, just with Councillor Mitchell, would she have to abstain from the voting?
Not on this one.
Not
on this one, it's a different.
There's a different conflict, yeah. No, just making sure for good governance. So all those that should stay, yeah, very good. The council has determined that Councillor McPhee is able to stay and vote on the particular matter. That's one.
Pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest in confidential item T2. The nature of the conflict of interest is that I hold a peppercorn lease with one of the educational facilities mentioned in this item. As the matter we're voting on won't affect the terms of my lease, I believe I can participate in the decision on the matter and intend to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of my fellow councillors as to whether I can remain in the room.
Thank you, Councillor McPhee. So as Councillor McPhee is identified and pursuant to section 175E of the Act, the Council has been informed of a real or perceived conflict of interest, and Councillor McPhee has not voluntarily left the meeting. The other councillors must now decide whether Councillor McPhee has a perceived conflict of interest, a real or perceived conflict of interest in the matter. Can I please have a show of hands to those councillors to determine that there is a conflict of interest?
What's the item? Sorry, Mr Mayor, what's the item number?
The item is T2. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions, Councillor Barnes? No. So, can I please show of hands to those councillors determine there is a conflict of interest? Again, I'll just do that. No. Now the councillors must determine whether Councillor McPhee must leave the meeting and stay away while the matter is voted on, or whether Councillor McPhee may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter. So can I please have a show of hands for those councillors to determine that Councillor McPhee must leave the meeting? Okay. Those who determine Councillor McPhee should stay. Okay, so Council has determined that Councillor McPhee will stay and should stay and will be able to vote on this matter. Thank you, everyone else.
Excuse me.
Yes, Councillor Hammond.
Clarify that I have a perceived conflict of interest in regard to the same item, so I should not have voted there.
Yeah, thanks for to bringing that up. So you'll be announcing that when it comes to it. So what I'll do is have it recorded. So the fact there is there anyone else for item T2 with any other conflicts? Just yourself, Councillor Haberman and Councillor McPhee. Is that right? No one else? No. So I'll do that again. Those councillors determine Council Councillor McPhee should stay. Okay, thank you. And that's noting that Councillor Haberman sustained from the voting, and Council has now determined that Councillor McPhee is able to stay and vote on the matter. Thank you, Councillor Haberman. That was a good pick up. Yep,
Lastly,
Councillor McPhee. Yep.
pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a real conflict of interest in confidential item T8. The nature of the conflict of interest is that I'm related by blood to the vendor of the property council is looking to acquire. Having stated this conflict of interest, I'm going to leave the room and not vote on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor McPhee. As Councillor McPhee has stated that she will be vacating the room during that determination of T8, there is no need to vote on the matter. No others, Councillor McPhee? No. Councillor Barnes?
No conflicts, Mr Mayor.
No. Councillor McLaughlin? Councillor Haberman?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have two. Pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest in regard to item S1.
Yep.
The nature of the conflict is that I attend meetings of Norval P&C Association, who are hosting the breakfast for the Variety Bash. I'm also a member of the Rotary Club of Bundaberg Sunrise, who are cooking the breakfast for that event. Having stated this conflict, I believe I can participate and vote on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Haberman. I'll just advise, obviously, as per the other pre-debate, Councillor McPhee won't be able to vote on that particular matter. However, you're staying in the room, so pursuant to section 1, yes, Councillor Haberman.
Sorry, I just realised I did vote on when Councillor McPhee voted, declared that perceived conflict of interest in that same item.
Yes.
So
I'll just make councillors aware of the sheets that we get from every meeting.
I wasn't
make
aware
myself
that,
aware of it.
if you had a perceived conflict.
That's all right. So what I'll do is we'll finish with yours and then go back. Councillor Trevor.
I was just raise a point of order.
Yep.
It says here on our conflict of interest material personal interest sheet that membership of a community group, sporting club or similar organisation, as long as you're not an office holder, it's not a conflict of interest. And engagement with a community group or sporting club undertaken in your capacity as a councillor is not a conflict of interest. So, to my mind, that raises the question of whether there is a conflict of interest.
Look, I think for the matters this morning in simplicity, where the councillor has identified the possible perceived conflict and will be staying in the room, the councillors will have that choice in the voting part whether they believe there is or there isn't a conflict. So I'll just finish with this one first. So Councillor Haberman is pursuant to section 175E of the Act, the council has been informed of the real or perceived conflict of interest, and Councillor Haberman has not voluntarily left the meeting. The other councillors must now decide whether Councillor Haberman has a real or perceived conflict of interest in the matter. Can I please have a show of hands of those councillors determine that there is a conflict of interest? No. Now the councillors must determine whether Councillor Haberman must leave the meeting and stay away while the matter is being voted on, or whether Councillor Haberman may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter. Can I please have a show of hands of those councillors determine that Councillor Haberman must leave the meeting? No. Those who determine Councillor Haberman should stay, understanding that Councillor McPhee will abstain. So those that stay, yep, very good. The council has determined that Councillor Haberman is able to stay and vote on the matter. I'll now go back and readdress, is that possible through you, Mr CEO, from a governance side of it?
The voting in the matter where Councillor Haberman inadvertently voted on Councillor McPhee's perceived conflict of interest. Yes.
Yeah, we'll do that because it's still fresh and it's still part of identifying conflicts at the start of the meeting. So if it was separated from that, it would be different, but as we're still going through the items in relation to conflict or perceived conflict. So the item, Councillor McPhee, was in relation to S1 sponsorship of the Variety Bash Adventure. Councillor McPhee has previously outlined the reasons why. That she will be the council will be remaining in the room. Now I'll go through the particulars pursuant to the Act, noting that Councillor Haberman will be sustaining from the voting. So, pursuant to section 175E of the Act, Council has been informed of a real or perceived conflict of interest, and Councillor McPhee has not voluntarily left the meeting. The other councillors must decide whether Councillor McPhee has a real or perceived conflict of interest in the matter. Can I please have a show of hands for those councillors to determine there is a conflict of interest? Now the councillors must decide whether Councillor McPhee must leave the meeting and stay away while the matter is voted on, or whether Councillor McPhee may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter. Can I please have a show of hands for those councillors to determine that Councillor McPhee must leave the meeting? No. Okay, those that determine Councillor McPhee should stay. Just noting, obviously, as we said there before, Councillor Haberman is sustaining from the vote. So now Council has determined that Councillor McPhee is able to stay and vote on the matter. Councillor Haberman, you're next.
Thank you again, Mr Mayor. Pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest in regard to item T2. The nature of that perceived conflict is that I was a board member of one of the property owners involved in that item from 2011 to 2016, and I was also an employee of that same entity for 4 years up until April this year. Having stated this conflict, I believe I can participate and vote on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Haberman. So I'll just make everyone aware, and Councillor McPhee, you'll be abstaining from voting going ahead. That's good. There's no other one else with a conflict in this particular item? No? Very good. So pursuant to section 175E of the Act, Council has been informed of a real or perceived conflict of interest, and Councillor Haberman has not voluntarily left the meeting. The other councillors must now decide whether Councillor Haberman has a real or perceived conflict of interest in the matter. Can I please have a show of hands at those councillors who determine there is a conflict of interest? No. Whether now the councillors must determine whether Councillor Haberman must leave the meeting and stay away while the matter is voted on, or Councillor Haberman may stay in the meeting, including voting on the matter. Can I have a show of hands for those councillors who determine that Councillor Haberman must leave the meeting? Those who determine Councillor Haberman should stay. Very good. So Council has determined that Councillor Haberman is able to stay and vote on the matter. Councillor Haberman, any others? Councillor Cooper?
No, clear.
Councillor Mitchell?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you very much. In pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to advise the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest in item G1. The nature of the conflict is that my husband Dale works for council. However, having stated this conflict, I believe that I can participate and vote on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. As previously identified, Councillor Honour has identified that he'll be remaining in the room, and so he will be abstaining from the voting. However, pursuant to section 175E of the Act, the Council has been informed of a real or perceived conflict of interest, and Councillor Mitchell has not voluntarily left the meeting. The other councillors must now decide whether Councillor Mitchell has a real or perceived conflict of interest. Can I please have a show of hands of those councillors determined there is a conflict of interest? Now the councillors must decide whether Councillor Mitchell must leave the meeting and stay away while the matter is voted on, or whether Councillor Mitchell may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter. Can I please have a show of hands for those councillors who determine that Councillor Mitchell must leave the meeting? No. Those who determine Councillor Mitchell should stay? So move, noting that Councillor Honour sustained because of perceptions and previously identified. So the council has determined that Councillor Mitchell is able to stay and vote on the matter. Thank you. Councillor Mitchell, any others? No. Councillor Learmont? No. Okay. And for myself, Councillor Dempsey is no. I have no matters to raise in that area. So going back to, we've done the declarations of material personal interest, conflicts of interest, and as we go through the agenda, there again, I always err on the side of caution. If anyone identifies any perceived conflicts or any other issues, please just put your hand up and we'll deal with them as we go through the agenda, but I thank you for your patience. So the next three items are in the organisational services section. It's item F1, it's a financial summary as of the 31st of July 2020. I call Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and good morning to the councillors and staff and those watching on Teams. Firstly, I'd like to move that the financial summary as at the 31st of July 2020 be noted by the council.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder, please? The seconder is Councillor Trevor. Councillor Cooper, you wish to speak further in relation to the motion?
In accordance with section 204 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, a financial report must be presented to the council on a monthly basis. The attached financial report contains the financial summary and associated commentary as of the 31st of July 2020.
Thanks, Councillor Cooper. Any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item of business is item F2, capital re-provisions. Councillor, I now call Councillor Cooper.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor, again. I'd like to move that number 1, pursuant to section 170 in brackets 3 and section 173 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the amended budget as tabled, and 2, Council endorse the following policies: A, Revenue Policy version 4, and B, Revenue Statement version 3.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a second? Oh no, you've already. The second is Councillor Barnes. Any other councillors wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? No. So moved. Next item of business is from the planning section. It's item K1. It's in relation to G1. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. It's G1. It's from the planning scheme policy on agriculture. Where have we got? Oh no, G1. Sorry, everybody. Is G1. It's starting to feel a lot like Christmas. Is in relation to the Christmas close down for 2020. Having already noted that Councillor Honour and Councillor Mitchell have already identified their perceived conflicts, I now turn to Councillor Cooper.
Thanks again, Mr Mayor. I recommend that Council Administration Office, Oswald Office, Service Centre, Libraries, Arts Centre and depots, in brackets, and other administrative and depot areas as applicable, in the brackets, be closed for the general business on the 3 working days over the Christmas New Year period, namely Thursday the 29th, Wednesday the 30th and Thursday the 31st of December 2020, with the office and depots reopening on Monday the 4th of January 2021. 2, employees be offered the alternative of taking the subject 3 days from leave or a combination of leave and accrued rostered days off. 3, the Chief Executive Officer advertise the closure and telephone numbers of the council officers who will attend to critical business over that period.
Thank you, councillor Cooper. Any other councillors wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? Oh, sorry, yes. So you've done your motion. The seconder for the motion, seconder councillor Bartels. Councillor Cooper, you wish to speak further?
Just in short, Mr Mayor, it's just a continuation of the normal policy of the council that we've carried this situation over many years, and this will just be happening.
Thank you, councillor Cooper. Any other councillor now wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item of business is from the planning section. This time it's actually item K1.
Mr Mayor, as previously declared, I'll leave the room.
Thank you, councillor Trevor, for leaving the room. Now that councillor Trevor has left the room, I now move the recommendation that pursuant to the Planning Act 2016 and the Minister's Guidelines and Rules, Council A decide to make a planning scheme policy for agricultural buffers, and B, approve the proposed planning scheme policy for public consultation. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Mitchell. So this particular item is in relation to agricultural buffers. The agricultural industry is a key contributor to the Bundaberg regional economy. The state planning policy recognises the importance of the agriculture area and as well as agricultural land resources to the Queensland economy by ensuring the state interest is protected and appropriately integrated with local planning instruments. The planning scheme currently addresses the state interest through a number of mechanisms, including the mapping of agricultural land and through requiring vegetation buffers between an existing agricultural use and any encroaching urban development. While the requirement for developers to provide agricultural buffers is specified within the current planning scheme, it puts the onus on the design on the developer, which has resulted in inconsistent standards across the region. This has become a source of frustration for the agricultural sector, the development industry and council. So to address these concerns, Council Development Group has engaged this particular brief that is before us now with consultation of a number of stakeholders, and we'll go out to community consultation over the coming month. I believe it's 20 days all up, to be able to have stability in relation to the agricultural buffers, particularly when issues in the past have involved everything from dust to smell to noise to lighting to spray offs and so forth. So this will give us some stability to be able to address the farm rights within local government planning, which will give people a greater peace of mind across all different sectors, from all stakeholders, from agriculture to development to council as well. So looking forward to the community consultation. I'll now put that to any other councillors. Any other councillors wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? No. So moved. I'll ask Councillor Trevor to come back. Thanks, Councillor Trevor.
Thank you.
The next item of business is from Tourism and Regional Growth Areas. Item S1 is the sponsorship of the Variety Bash Adventure. So I now move that Council authorise the CEO to enter into a partnership sponsorship agreement with Variety Queensland for the 2020 Variety Bash Adventure to be held in Bundaberg in November 2020. with council providing 20,000 plus GST in sponsorship for the event. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Learmont. So I'll just basically is this particular variety bash adventure. We've seen the success of these variety bashes right across many regional towns across Queensland. Unfortunately, Winton is unable to host the event this year, and we've been given the opportunity to take up this variety bash. From the figures, the economic analysis from where bashes normally start, it brings in anything from 120 to 180,000 to the local economies. They have about 300 participants, and because of COVID conditions and so forth, it's an event where they're limited, particularly during the event, to their particular vehicles. And then obviously the other COVID conditions comply like everything else within our community. So there's an economic stimulus. It's a good event to bring the community together. And because the Variety Club is the children's charity, is the funding for what they'll be raising here locally, whilst getting out to a number of the other community and youth community groups within Bundaberg region, is they're looking to put the money back into a large bus for the Bundaberg State High School to assist with transport for youth to be able to engage in other curriculum outside of the normal school hours that those youth particularly will be attending to give them a great experience and hopefully get them through their educational needs. I'll ask now, has any other councillors got any queries or questions in relation to the bash? No? All those in favour? Those against? No? So moved. Next item, the next items of business, I'll just go to the agenda. The next items are confidential in nature and pursuant to section 275 of the Local Government Regulations 2020, or 2012, these are items T1 to T8. I now move that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to section 275 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to discuss the confidential items. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Cooper. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. We will now suspend the live streaming while the confidential items are discussed, and we hope to see everyone back online shortly. Thank you. tell us when we're off, yep. So welcome back everybody. We're now coming out of confidential in relation to items T1 to T8. And I now move the meeting be brought out of confidential and back to the open. Can I have a seconder please? Seconder is Councillor Haverman. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. The first item is item T1. It's a lease of part of 160 Hughes Road, Bagara. So I now move that council apply the exemption contained in section 236 brackets 1 brackets E of the local Government Regulation 2012 and Part 2, the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a 1-year lease to LexiTech Private Limited after LexiTech Private Limited has obtained an Australian registered business number for part of the Bagara Administration Centre known as Lot 11 on RP 7268. Can I have a seconder please? The seconder is Councillor Barnes. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item of business is item T2. It's a rating exemption for exemption for educational facilities. I now move the council apply section 9(3), section 93 brackets 3 brackets I of the Local Government Act 2009 exempt from rates the properties known as Lot 32 on SP 283979, Lot 189 on CP 839572 and Lot 2 on SP 298179 and Lot 7 on RP 800407 for charitable purposes. Can I have a seconder please? Second is Councillor Cooper. I'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Bartels, Councillor Learmont. The matter is now so moved. The next item of business is item T3. It's in relation to the specialised supplier servicing of SCADA PAC remote telemetry units. So I now move that Part A, Council enter into an agreement with Schneider Electronic Australia for the provisions of servicing of SCADA PACs without first inviting written quotes pursuant to section 235B brackets of the Local Government Regulation 2012 and B, this arrangement will be made for initial period from the 1st of September 2020 to the 31st of August 2023. Can I have a seconder please? Second is Councillor Honour. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item of business is item T4. It's another specialised supplier and I now move that Part A, Council enter into arrangements with Solace brackets, that is SANZAP Proprietary Limited, ABN number 54609391380, close brackets, for the supply of Solus Library app and optional RFID module without first inviting written quotes pursuant to section 235B of the Local Government Regulation 2012. And Part B, this arrangement be for an initial period of 3 years. Can I have a seconder please? Seconder is Councillor Cooper. I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item is item T5, specialised supply arrangements with Altech Australia Proprietary Limited. And I now move that Part A, Council enter into arrangements with Altech Australia Proprietary Limited for the provision of LIMS1 Laboratory Information System Annual Maintenance Contract without first inviting written quotes pursuant to section 235B of the Local Government Regulation 2012. And Part B, this arrangement will be made for the period of the 1st of October 2020 to the 30th of September 2022. Can I have a seconder please? Seconder is Councillor Honour. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item is item T6. It's another specialised supplier arrangement with Task Exchange Proprietary Limited. I now move that Part A, council enter into an arrangement with Task Exchange Proprietary Limited for the provision of LG Hub Australian Cloud Package without first inviting written quotes pursuant to section 235B of the Local Government Regulation 2012. And Part B, this arrangement was made for an initial period of the 18th of June 2019 to the 17th of June 2022. Can I have a seconder, please? As a seconder is Councillor Mitchell. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item is item T7. It's a request to reduce development application fees in relation to the Bundy Turf Burners Mower Racing Club. So I now move that the application fee for the proposed material change of use for a motorsport facility, brackets lawnmower racing, at 2359 Bucker Road Bullyard, that's in brackets lot number 226 on CK386, be set as recommended in the report. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Honour. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. The next part of this business is item 8, is a purchase. Thank you, Councillor McPhee, is leaving the room. So Councillor McPhee has now vacated the room. So I now move that the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a contract to sale for purchase of Lot 1 on SP 225014 at the agreed purchase price. Can I have a seconder, please? Second is Councillor Haberman. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. We'll just wait for Councillor McPhee to return to the room. Thank you, Councillor McPhee. This brings to conclusion the business of today's meeting. The next ordinary meeting is due to be held on the 29th of September in the Civic Supper room here in Bundaberg. I now close the meeting at 10:55 a.m. and thank you for your attendance. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, everyone online.